Good evening, everyone. Varda here, and we are going to be continuing our pyromancy playthrough today. I hope you've been enjoying the series so far as much as I have, and we are going to get started by taking out the... I think they're called prowling demons, technically. I always call them Titanite demons. Alright. May not actually be... I mean, the fire actually did quite a bit of damage, it's just that... Yeah, this is the problem. Like, I'm trading with a much bigger, much healthier entity. And I'm not a fan of trading with bigger and healthier entities most of the time. Alright, you know what? We took one hit, but we've done alright. Let's quickly switch to combustion. Find the sweet spot. I honestly thought this guy would be a little bit more resistant to fire. I don't know where I got that idea from. But, like, actually, he seems to be taking a relative beating from it. That went pretty well. Okay, combustion OP. That's what I learned. Nah. Awesome. Awesome, we got him taken out. No problem. Sometimes he can be a bit tricky. I didn't expect to die, but, like, occasionally I just get the roll timers wrong. I just barbecued the wrong tree. Now, this is the strength of combustion. It is a great interrupt spell. Ah, yes, I might actually want to pick some of this up, because we are going to be doing Blighttown properly, which means a stock of clumps is a good idea. I think what we'll do to secure ourselves said stockpile of clumps is we will, as we go back to Firelink Shrine to reset on the way to the depths, what I'll do is I'll I'll visit the lady in the aqueduct. There we go. The second kill was more or less how the first one was meant to go. Didn't end up being that clean, but you know, works out, works out. It's all good. Little bit of a trek here along this precipice. And for those of you who haven't played Dark Souls before, it's worth taking note of these messages, because behind these messages and behind that wall is a secret bonfire. Bonfires, of course, are very useful things, very convenient. And so we are going to take advantage of it. Down here we've got a couple of things that are worth talking about. We have a room with an item in it, and you should never pick this item up, because if you do, or rather, you should never pick it up until you're done with the forest. Because if you do, these guys will spawn every time you respawn and aggro you. So, you know, if you're coming down here, first couple of times, you want a full clear, have a look around. Get this item last. It's unimportant. It's not something you're going to miss having. And it'll just make your life a little bit easier, because you can come straight down into this area and take advantage of it. Alright. Let's go have a word with Mr. Giant. Okay, that took a lot of spell casts. I was not necessarily expecting that to take quite so many resources. I missed the tree. Kind of hard to hit it when it's in the ground, but that's okay. Give me your clump. Yes, your clump! I demand it. There's a snake up in this tree. Oof. regarding a spear. I'm not sure why that snake is so fond of that spear. Haven't asked him on account of him not speaking English, but, you know, not too bad. We can take the spear even though we'll never use it. Just rob a snake blind. Oh, that was a bad roll. That one needed to be good, and it was. Okay. And now we just barbecue him. And swing. Both of them activate fairly quickly, so we can use them to interrupt attacks like that. One of the big strengths of combustion, pyromancy is often very slow. There we go, nice. We're out of combustion. Which, you know, isn't ideal. But it's okay. Over there is a rather large ambush, and rather than dealing with the large ambush, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull them out one at a time. You can if you want to, and you're feeling bold. Oops, that wasn't the way I meant to throw that. Let's angle the camera up a bit. This is going to go straight over, right? No. Actually got it. Nice. Okay, so what we can do here now is wake the stone dude up without waking any of his friends up. And honestly, it's usually his friends that are the problem, because they make it harder to focus on this guy. If it's just this guy, you have the advantage of, you know, the slow attacks giving you plenty of time to react. However, if you aggro the big guy first, the small ones first, you don't have words. If you aggro them all at the same time, it's a lot harder to focus on dodging, because there are lots of smaller, faster attacks coming in from other angles. That was what I was trying to say, and I have now said it. So I am happy. That spell he's casting there, Tranquil Walk of Peace, is pretty strong. It stops you rolling away when you try to, slows you down. Really just impairs your movement, and impaired movement is not particularly good for you. Now I hear trees don't like fire. You'll notice that this one is moving ever so slightly. I'm not going to use too many more spells because I will need them elsewhere. And it leads to a secret area, in which is a very convenient item for spellcasters. Well, not really spellcasters, but light armor builds. I find it quite convenient for spellcasters because it gives you a little bit more leeway. I am, of course... Hey, boy, fuck off. Thank you. I am, of course, talking about the Wolf Ring. Now, for those of you who don't play the game, the Wolf Ring gives you a stat called Poise. And Poise makes it harder for your attacks to be interrupted, because you don't get staggered as easily. So, you know, you can take a hit without your spellcast getting cancelled, basically. And as far as I'm concerned, my spellcasts not getting cancelled is a fine thing to be pleased about. We have nearly burnt all the way through our stockpile of spells, but it's okay because we will get to go back to the bonfire shortly and replenish them. It's the one downside to the very early game sort of spell builds. Yeah, it's the one downside to the early spell builds, is that you often end up not really being able to use the spells you want to use for quite as much as you'd like to use them for. Because a sword, yes, it has durability, but it's an infinite number of hits until it breaks with no, you know, strict penalty. In that sense, the durability is hundreds of spellcasts, really. Which is why you need a variety, but until you can afford multiples of each spell, getting a variety can be really problematic. Alright, just one last giant up here. Ideally, he will go for Tranquil Walk of Peace. Instead, he went for Tranquil Walk of Get Your Ass Off My Lawn and smack me in the face. This guy has no trill. Trill? Chill. There is nothing tranquil about this individual. He is all up in my grill. There we go. You see, I worked it up. I worked it up to being a particularly bad joke, as always. The wolf ring, the ring of Sir Artorius. Thought for a second I might have messed that jump up, but I hadn't. Uh-oh. Hang on, where did you come from? Of course, these guys aren't really an issue. We do hit hard enough to deal with them. Okay. Now, I still can't get over how good that fire effect looks, but because we're going to go do the boss now, I'm going to sit at this bonfire. Get my spellcasts back. Do I want to do it with Beatrice? No, I don't really think I do. I'll kindle that one later. I normally kindle that one because there's a pretty good soul farming spot on the opposite side of the door, and it's also a PvP bonfire a lot of the time. A decent chunk of PvP happens in the forest because of the Forest Hunter Covenant. Of course, I don't really plan on getting involved in any PvP shenanigans today. Well, ripperoni and pepperoni. Good lord. Well done, sir. Fine hits, one and all. The reason I died there, and I'm slightly in shock that I did, but the reason I died there is that I didn't realize I'd woken one of them up. I didn't realize I'd crossed into the zone that would wake him up. So I moved past him and woke another one up. But because I was a bit confused, I wasn't really prepared to fight, and that cost me. You can try and hold to the side and the back of the giants. Get your corpse out of the way, honestly. Move it! Alright, not quite flawless, but we did get our souls back. And we have killed our way through to the Moonlit Butterfly. So, let us go and have a word with the Butterfly of Moonlight. This fight is interesting, because it can be really frustrating. As a melee build, and even as a pyromancer, really, I don't have any spells which will easily find the Butterfly. I mean, maybe Fireball will. We can give it a go. Nah. A little bit too heavy. Too much of an arc. Okay. So she has two attacks. She has the Spread Projectile, which I just rolled into. and a much heavier projectile like that. It's the heavy one that will one-shot you on most builds. This one you can kind of take some punishment from. And from melee builds, it's kind of a you either block or you dodge. You can dodge pretty easily just by walking. She's switching platforms. Is she going to do the spell? No. There is a spell she does sometimes when she switches platforms, which is quite nasty. But she chose to be kind. There we go, just dodge under that one. So, like, you can dodge by strafing. It does work, it's just not particularly reliable. But if you have a shield up and a decent number of Estus Flasks, you can deal with the butterfly no problem. Now, you see that she's landing. This is our window to do a lot of damage. Normally, I would say it takes between 2 to 3 landings, depending on the damage threshold of your character. You can see that on mine it should be 2. But it's a very big, very generous damage window. It's essentially dodge until it gets exhausted and lands, and then just go kill it. In that sense, the mechanics are more about you just pressing dodge roll at a good time or holding up a shield and blocking. There are some good magic block shields. You can even use the doorway. But if you do, she tends to... Yeah, there we go. That was the spell I was talking about, where she fires a missile down the center. Gonna keep chugging heals. I'm not claiming I'm doing this very well, but then I never claimed to be good at this game. What I am saying is you can kind of trivialize this fight a little bit with some Estus and a good shield. My shield isn't even that good. But as long as you sort of, like, strafe a little bit, you'll probably get hit by only one of those, and here's the damage window. So this should be the end of the fight. Have some fire! Barbecued butterfly, anyone? Lord Gwyn, maybe? Seath, I know you're partial to a bit of butterfly. Can I barbecue it for you? Oh, dear. Right, well, that's the butterfly dealt with. A pretty easy fight, all things considered. It can be quite frustrating if, you know, you haven't worked on your gear at all, or you're not used to dodging. Because it can hit really, really hard, and if you fail a dodge on one of the bigger projectiles, you pretty much get one shot. However, as mechanics go, it literally has, I think, 4 mechanics, and we only saw 3 of them, and it only did one of them once. So, it's not something that has a lot of mechanics you really need to worry about a lot of the time. Did I take my Bones of Homewooding off my bar? I did. Okay, let us replace the bone on the bar. And take a quick trip home. It's been a relatively productive episode so far. Pretty happy with this. Ah yes, I should tell you that our points from the gargoyles went into attunement, which I'm putting a lot of stats in early on, so we can get some more spells, and dexterity. The reason I'm putting a lot into attunement is I want to encourage myself to use the spells and not just use the blades. Random health bar pop up there, just ahead of us. But yeah, not just use the blades and whatever other weapon buffs or whatever I might pick up along the way, but actually to just use the spells. And of course, if I have more attunement, I have more spells, I have less reason to resort to using my sword. And that is the thought process behind that one. So, no, I didn't think I could get the cast off in time round the corner, so I used the sword there. We could go and have a word with El Hydra, but we'll deal with him later when we start thinking about moving into the DLC areas. You're rude. Right now, I think, honestly, the only place we really need to go is the depths. So I will join you at the depths. Okay, I don't think we've visited this guy on camera, so I'm just taking a brief pause while I run back to the depths to say that I am going to be leaving him alive. Most of you who've played Dark Souls will know that he screws you over pretty hard, and we'll talk about how when it comes to it. But I was considering just kicking him off the edge. However, for the sake of the series I'm doing for YouTube, I think I am going to leave him alive and just showcase what he does for the sake of posterity. Brief interlude over. Alright, we have returned to the scene of the crime. And by the crime, I mean we were murdered here by the Grim Reaper, and I didn't agree with that, so I'm back. Fuck the Grim Reaper. Anyway, moving on. I said that I would show you guys the shortcut way down, because we already cleared out the top portion of this when we came to get Laurentius of the Great Swamp, and so that's what we're going to do. We are going to go down the shortcut, if we don't die, which we might. No idea where the accent came from, or whatever that was, but we'll just ignore that and move on. Sometimes you commit to it and you really shouldn't have. Anyhow, we've got a dog down here to deal with. Hello. Wait, what? Where's the butcher? Hello? What? Okay. Okay. I didn't think the butcher was a one-time spawn, but I guess I've never really run back through. Or I have, but you know, I've just been sprinting through and not paying attention. Okay, this is the rat. Our plunging attack didn't kill it, but the bleed will. Why didn't I throw spells? Because the angle's a bit awkward. I don't think it would have been particularly efficient. And so we are in the depths. We have picked up the sewer chamber key. And now we are going to go and unlock the bonfire. So, I think what we'll do is we will run through the majority of this zone. Just for the sake of keeping it interesting. I've not run through the full zone in a little while. I normally only traverse my rat farming route for some humanity when I need the huge humanities. This location, I can actually show you something with this build that I can't normally show people. Which is kind of cool. Is actually a very good early area. Like, normally I would use... hang on, how many humanities do I have? How many am I willing to waste? Well, actually, none. I don't need to waste any. Reverse hollowing. Okay, there we go. 15 plus 2 Estus flasks. And this is something I don't normally do, because I don't normally have pyromancy. However, it's something that really only pyromancers can do, so I guess this would be a pretty cool time to showcase what we can do with our class. So, these guys take 156 damage, right? From the fire, they take 19 from the sword. Now, I don't have a particularly good drop chance rating. Maybe I'll just pop a twin humanities to see if I can get it to prove my point. But these guys are normally really hard to kill. For a pyromancer, they are incredibly easy to kill. You run from one end of the corridor to the other, and then you walk back. If you have Firestorm or some of the later game spells that we don't have access to right now, you can come back here with that, and it will be very useful for you. Because it'll just one-shot the entire corridor. It's startlingly efficient. But we don't have it, so we're making do with multiple combustion casts. It's a little bit slower, but still a lot more efficient than using a blade or any other type of weapon to get through this group of slimes. They are not being cooperative. Alright. God damn it. I'll resume the recording when they've dropped what I want them to drop. Here we have it. You saw that I just picked up a green Titanite shard. They can drop large or green Titanite, and both of those things are very good for you in this zone. Very good for you in general. Allows you to farm up some resources, so if you're struggling and you have a pyromancy, you can upgrade your armor and your weapons pretty quick with that. Like, it may not be the world's most efficient way to do things, but it's, yeah, you can use it to farm things pretty reliably. And although it took me a couple of attempts to get a drop, you know, a couple of minutes, if you were to pop more humanity than I was willing to, take your humanity stack up to 10 or to 8, you would get, I would imagine, 1 or 2 per run, a minimum, like drops, that is. Not necessarily 1 or 2 large Titanites. I don't know if they drop stacks of 5 green Titanite, but I do know that 5 green Titanite can drop at a time from certain enemies. And that's pretty good for upgrading magical style weapons, should that be your particular preference. Okay, moving down here, let's have a word with the rats. You can hear, or hopefully you can hear, the small sound effect there, which indicates that the channeler is making my life miserable. On the other hand, he no longer has a life, so I guess mine could be miserable for a little bit. That's alright. Yeah. I'll see if I can show you guys this. You see how the crate is empty? I guess I'll have to come back here to give you guys a side-by-side comparison, but there are 2 rats which are supposed to emerge as a trap as you run past them. But if you destroy the boxes, they don't spawn, because they're meant to destroy the boxes. Like, it's almost like the trigger is for the rat spawning is the box being destroyed. I don't know how to describe it, but you don't want to do it. You want to trigger the trap if you're farming rats, but I just think it's really interesting. I discovered that by accident trying to snipe them on my bow build. Yeah, I find it fascinating that I can accidentally cheese myself out of humanity. Oh, speaking of, thank you for illustrating the point, kindly rat. Alright, and that is the top half of the depths. So, we are going to call this episode here. When we return, we will be taking on the lower part of the depth and the Gaping Dragon, and maybe even moving our way into Blight. Oh, I'm doing an outro here. And maybe even moving our way into Blight Town. So I will see you guys later. Thank you very much for watching. Take it easy now. Bye-bye.